Hey folks, it's Nick Granville. Welcome to Guitar Daily. This is my daily thing I do on YouTube, is post videos about guitar and music and all good stuff like that. Thought today what I'd talk about is five that I wished I'd known when I started playing. These are things that would have sped up the process and probably would have helped me a lot in getting further ahead with this whole music game, if you will. So the first thing I talk about is to do with gear. Now, tone is in your fingers, right? We all know, most people know that, right? I remember a buddy of mine saying to me, it's 80% in your fingers and 20% in the gear. And I thought that's a good way of looking at it. And he said, go and spend money and get the easy 20%. It's kind of always stayed with me. And I thought, yeah, so I always made sure I had good equipment, right? That works, it's in tune, it gets a good sound. And the mistake I've made is I buy what I could afford at the time, and I'd sort of, I should have gone for this level of stuff, but I went for this level, and then I sort of traded that up to the next level, and I traded that up to get the next level, and I sort of took 4 steps to get to the thing that was good. What would have been cheaper would have been just to go straight all in for the good thing that I was looking for, and it would have been better for my playing because I would have had a better instrument that holds tuning better and plays better and has a better tone, all of those things. So that would be my advice. If you're going to look for good gear, don't necessarily try and go for the low end of what you're aspiring for. I'm not saying cheap instruments aren't good; they are, but go all in is my point. All right, that's the first thing I'd say. That's the first thing that I learned. Second thing is how critical tone is, right? If you have a bad tone, say you're trying to get a jazz guitar tone, and this is what your tone is like. It's not going to be appealing to anybody's ears unless you're like sort of taking the piss, like I was a little bit there. But I realized just how important tone is as time has gone on. Right? If you get a sweet tone, every note you play is going to be appealing to people. If you don't get a sweet tone, then the notes they're not going to reach people in the way you're probably intending. So tone was one thing that I learned kind of the hard way. And that can come from how you pick your instrument, how it's set up, what you're running through, your equipment, your amps, your model, or whatever you're using. And that a lot of that comes from what the sound you have in your head. But we'll get to that another day. The third thing I'd talk about is the experience that musicians have on stage. I thought, if I played well, that was kind of the whole equation. And, really this third thing of experience is that what people go away from is they don't remember the notes you play. We think they do. We think, oh, I play this Charlie Parker lick that I've been working really hard on, or the Scott Henderson lick, or the SCO lick, or whatever. And, everyone's going to be impressed by that. That, to be honest, they don't remember. Maybe they might remember small little details, but the thing they remember is how they felt about the music and about the whole experience of being there. And that took me a long time to work out, Create a vibe on stage and everybody feels good, and that's what they remember, right? People who are like highly strung on stage, some people just like that, right? They need to learn to relax, because the thing is, the more relaxed you are, then the more relaxed, the better the music is, just period, right? A good buddy of mine, we used to play a lot of TV stuff together. We were often 2 guitars, and he would have this way of, when things were getting tense, he would just sort of lighten the mood with a little joke, and it was never like something kind of out of line. It was always just tactfully done, in a good kind of way. And he would sort of lighten the whole mood, and then everybody would play well, and that was his experience coming through. And that's one thing that I learned with time, was that it's the experience of music that the musicians around you want, not so much the notes, right? So if you can play something that makes them sound good, not necessarily yourself, put yourself second, put them first, and you make them sound good, they're going to remember that, and they're going to want to play with you again, right? That was a lesson that kind of came the hard way, I'm afraid to say. The fourth thing I talk about is how powerful space is. I didn't realize this when I first played. When I first started playing, I'd do stuff like... So that was a whole 12 bars of a blues without a single break. And what happens is, I bet you can't remember a single melodic idea in your head of what I just played, because it's just a whole lot of rubbish, right? As opposed to if I went, right? And you see there, I had a theme, an idea, something, and I left some gaps, right? And I even had room to comp for myself. I did a whole video on how to comp for yourself, which seems to have resonated with people. I'm not really sure why, but it's cool that people are checking that stuff out. But you see there, by leaving some space, I was able to comp for myself. I was also, if there was a piano player, they could comp in those gaps instead of me needing to. But space is a big one. The other thing too that happens with space is when you leave a gap, it's like the audience is going, oh, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And then you deliver the knockout punch, right? But if you just keep playing, it's sort of you're not leading them towards anything as a listener. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, so space to me was something that I learned. Now, I'm guilty of overplaying. All guitar players are. It's very easy on our instrument to just play and not have to breathe. There are tactics I can do. I do have with students. If people are interested, let me know in the comments below, and I could maybe do a lesson on ways to develop space in your playing. And I have talked about it a little bit on Guitar Daily, but not a lot, not a huge amount. But I didn't realize how powerful space was. And the fifth one, and this is the biggest one, the fifth one that I learned over time was that how important rhythm guitar was. When I first started playing, all I wanted to do was solos, Hendrixy type stuff. Like I was really into that. Those sort of things. I'm trying not to play too much of the melodic idea there, because I'll get a copyright notice or something. The copyright stuff's gone out of control at the moment too, hasn't it? Just as a side note. Anyway, so back to rhythm guitar. Rhythm guitar, like the thing with rhythm guitar that's crazy is that if I'm playing a song format, I'll play rhythm guitar for 90% of the time. If I get a solo and it's a pop gig, I might get like 8 or 16 bars, probably maximum. And then I'm back to playing rhythm guitar, right? That orchestral thing that I talked about, I had 3 solos that night out of the whole show, 2-hour show, 3 solos. And none of them were big, long solos. They were Queen things. Because the role most of the time for most guitar players is rhythm and rhythm guitar. Right, and that was a hard one, because when I learned to play, I just wanted to solo. I wanted to rip into stuff and be like Brian May or Slash or Metallica. I was into Kirk Hammett from Metallica and all kinds of stuff like that. And then of course Stevie Ray Vaughan and things like that. So I wanted to play lead guitar, but I didn't realize how important rhythm guitar is. Right, a lot of times I get paid just to do things like. And to make it feel good, right? That's the whole thing. Like, it's just playing a rhythm guitar part, it's a supportive role. And that's something that was kind of a hard lesson to learn, but I'm glad I've learned it, because it's like rhythm guitar is where it's at. And there's so many good rhythm guitar players out there. I've mentioned a bunch of people before, but Rob Harris is someone who I often think about when I'm thinking about rhythm guitar. I think, what would Rob do on this song? Or Ella Ray Feingold, a really good rhythm guitar player too. But then, of course, there's Jimmy Nolan from James Brown. There's people like Catfish, Phelps Catfish Collins, also from James Brown's band, or all kinds of players who are really good at rhythm. Metallica, James Hetfield is a badass rhythm guitar player. Like, the way he does downstrokes is like second to none in that sort of style of playing. It's not easy to do. But anyway, I hope these 5 things have been helpful. These were things that I've kind of learned as I've gone along doing this music thing. But yeah, I hope they're helpful to you. If they are, then leave a comment below and let me know. If you have any questions, leave that in the comments below. If you could like this video, that really helps. And of course, please subscribe, because I do this every day. Guitar Daily. This is my thing. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers. See you tomorrow.